Cora Price.
I'm Rachel Keene.
Our project is titled Space Collaboration, Science Fact or Science Fiction.
Good morning and welcome to the ICU Network, where we look at international cooperation and how it affects you. I'm your host, Vivian Vaughn. Today is a very important day. We are recognizing the 20th anniversary of the International Space Station, also known as the ISS. Today we have a historian here from the Smithsonian to talk to us about the ISS. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you'll be talking to us about today?
Of course. My name is Lydia Reynolds and I'm a historian, as you said. Today I'll be talking to you about the ISS, what led up to the creation, the president, and then after that we'll be looking at the resources and kind of evaluating if it was worth it or not.
Sounds interesting. I'd love to hear more.
Let me paint you a picture. It's 1955 and the United States and Soviet Union have been engaged in the Cold War for about 8 years. Direct conflict not broken out, there's distrust everywhere and between everyone.
It would be hard not to have distrust, with missiles poised, ready for any moment. Anyone alive during that time could tell you about the fallout shelters and bomb drills during school.
Propaganda was everywhere, warning against the terrible Americans and their democracy,
or the horrible Russians and their communism. With Russia's launch of Sputnik, the world's first successful satellite, the space race begins, bringing this rivalry into space, a competition to see who could get the first man on the moon.
On August 2nd, 1955, Russia successfully launched the first Earth-orbiting satellite. 2 years later, on October 4th, 1957, a dominant Laika becomes the first living organism to successfully orbit the Earth. Russia had a major accomplishment.
But the U.S. was not about to be left behind. So, on January 31st, 1958, the U.S. launched their first successful satellite to enter orbit, officially entering them into the space race. Now that we had a space race and a space program, we needed an organization to keep everything in order. So, later that year in October, the U.S. government created NASA. The objectives of NASA later emerged in Section 102 of the Final Space Act.
To expand human knowledge of phenomena in the atmosphere and space, to improve the usefulness, performance, speed, safety, and efficiency of aeronautical and space vehicles, to preserve the role of the United States as a leader in aeronautical and space science and technology, and in the application thereof to the conduct of peaceful activities within and outside the atmosphere.
And so forth. And so, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration was born.
A year or two later, Russia successfully touches the surface of the moon with, of course, a satellite, but this had never been done before, and it was another massive accomplishment for Russia.
Then, on December 21st, 1968, the U.S. launched their first U.S. manned satellite to orbit the moon. July 20th, 1969, American astronauts Neil Armstrong and Edwin Aldrin became the first humans to touch the surface of the moon. Neil Armstrong was a rock star. Everyone around the world gathered around their TV sets and watched the space landing. The U.S. had won the space race.
On July 15th, 1975, after softening tensions, the first collaborative mission, Apollo-Soyuz, is launched and docked. American astronaut Tom Stafford and Russian cosmonaut Alexei Leonov shake hands in space.
Symbolizing a unifying symbol of part of enemies to come together, and this launched the enemies into a new and collaborative future.
Ladies and gentlemen, today we have President Ronald Reagan here to speak with us about his plans for a new space station. President Reagan?
Tonight I'm directing NASA to develop a permanently manned space station and to do it within a decade. A space station will permit quantum leaps in our research in space communications and metals and in life-saving medicines which can only be manufactured in space. We want our friends to help us meet these challenges and share in their benefits. NASA will invite other countries to participate so we can strengthen peace, build prosperity, and expand freedom for all who share our goals.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. So Reagan wants to build a space station with countries from all over the world. Quite frankly, it had never been done before, and people were unsure, but excited. So, to see what this project would hold.
The ISS construction did progress for 9 years. Then, in 1989, the Berlin Wall fell, symbolizing the destruction of the Soviet Union. The newly formed Russia crashed, a depression far worse than the U.S. depression.
In 1993, the U.S. officially asked Russia, former Soviet Union, to be partners for the ISS, and Russia accepts. Now, each country had many reasons why it would be beneficial to become partners.
I'm President Reagan.
I'm President Gorbachev.
Today we'll be addressing our new partnership. We had a dream too big for only one country, a giant space station filled with knowledge of over a dozen countries.
Though we were newly formed, we didn't really have the economy, but we still wanted to be a part of all of the space stuff that was going on.
The newly formed country the economic system collapsed, leaving Russia in a depression.
Brilliant scientists left without jobs led us to consider partnering with North Korea.
This recipe spelled disaster, so of course we offered a friendly hand.
This project also piqued Europe's interest. They had never been into space before. They had money and they had interest, so it seemed like the perfect opportunity.
15 countries joined to sign on to join the International Space Station. Switzerland, Denmark, Japan, Canada, Norway, Sweden, Spain, Russia, Germany, Netherlands, France, United Kingdom, Italy, Belgium, and of course the US.
Finally, on November 2nd, 1998, the first piece of the ISS reached orbit. Then, after 2 years, it was ready in 2000 for Expedition 1 to embark.
November 2nd, 2000, myself, Bill Shepard, and other cosmonauts, Yuri P. Gudzinko and Sergei K. Kirklev became the first crew aboard the ISS. 141 days long, this expedition set up the future of other crews that would later join the ISS.
Shortly after we docked, we assembled the work compartment and had a meeting with Mission Control in Cora, Russia. Most of our work while we were on the station consisted of setting up life support systems and communication equipment.
We started the life of this ginormous International Space Station. 36 successful missions would follow ours. Some of the accomplishments include fundamental disease research,
Fluid physics research,
research on more than 100 billion cosmic particles,
food growth in microgravity,
new water purification systems,
exploration of the fifth matter,
knowledge on parcels and black holes,
and so much more. It took over 50 missions to build, over 150 pieces, and to fund over $150 billion. It helped so many people. It helped out the countries, helped with the scientific research, but it cost so much, and people are starting to wonder, was it really worth it? But look at the people it's helped. Look at the countries and the bonds that it's strengthened. That's why I believe that it was worth every dollar.
I hear that. But recently, NASA has been talking about how they might retire the ISS. A project that took over a decade to build and billions of dollars to make, they're just going to shut it down? Was it really worth it if it would only last mere decades?
Yes, it ended the Cold War. It slowed the tensions between the two countries. It gave us so many scientific accomplishments. It brought over a dozen nations together in hopes for a better world. That to me is the epitome of diplomacy, coming together to build a better world for those after us. If that isn't worth the resources, then I don't know what is. Thank you and good night.